Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement 2 Super Mini Mail Call, and we're going to jump right into it. What you see here obviously is a Commodore 64. We have a 250-425 board revision of the bread bin, and I actually really like these. Well, I mean, I like them all. What can I say? The thing about these is, of course, it has this much simplified clock circuit right here around the VIC-2, which combined all of the circuitry and whatever that was in there into this one IC. This IC does fail, and when it does, your machine doesn't work at all. There is like a modern replacement for this, but you gotta buy those. You can't just like swap in a normal chip. On the older revisions, you could, all the parts in the timing circuit are all just bog standard, so you could easily replace them. VIC-2's in a socket. All these other ICs are in a socket, which is pretty cool. The PLA, the SID, the CPU, all the ROMs, all three ROMs, and the two CIAs or PIAs, whatever the 6526 is. The reason why I didn't unbox this is because this was given to me by a local viewer here, so I decided to throw it in with this mail call so that I could do some testing on camera so we could determine if this is just a working board or one that's going to be part of a future repair-a-thon. Interesting little tidbit here, the character ROM was made by AMD in 1984. Commodore made this ROM chip, the kernel ROM, and then the basic ROM was made by General Instruments. Yeah, they did actually use some third parties to make their chips sometime. Looks like pretty much everything on this board is from 1984, including these chips. I'm noticing that I'm gonna have to straighten out those pins on the keyboard connector a little bit. We have Motorola RAM chips here, all the same. They're all from 1984, 12th week. There are a couple MOS branded 74 LS Logic chips here. Those are pretty junk. And there's another one over here as well. I'd mentioned it before, if you have a fault on your 64, I'll definitely suspect, don't always assume, but suspect that those MOS 74S Logic chips are bad. Looks like there's a sticker on here, and I did write over the address that was on here, but it does say OK 11/16, so November 16th, 1994, and it did have a local Portland, Oregon address, whoever the previous owner of this was. And everything on here otherwise looks pretty good. The original RF shield on the back. I'm going to say that none of these chips have been reworked, and it probably was fully socketed right from the start. All right, RetroTink is up here. Let's plug this in. This is not going to be a repair video if this thing does not work. I just want to see if it does, which seems to be what's going on. It looks like the power switch was already on. Hopefully those pins aren't shorting. Oh, okay, well, we definitely have a fault. The color being bad is nothing to do with anything. That's just the RetroTink not being set correctly. Come on, this Elgato capture card is slow. There we go. So yeah, 64 RAM SIC V2. Definitely we have like a problem with the multiplexer or something going on. Let's just power cycle this really quick. It is exactly the same on the second power up. So there it is. You get an idea of what's going on. We have some repeating stuff on here. It's truncated. Definitely some kind of RAM addressing errors. But the fact that we have the blue border, the light blue border, the dark blue background means that the CPU is definitely executing code. It'd be curious, I should bend these pins out on the keyboard connector. Let's plug a keyboard in. Let's just see if this works. Pins have been straightened, and I have my keyboard here from the ZIF 64. Yeah, it's a VIC-20 top, but I use it with my 64. It's a amalgamation of a bunch of different things. What I want to see here is if the thing powers up and shows the basic prompt, and I can actually type, like it's as if it's working. I'm thinking that whatever addressing error is going on here with the RAM, or maybe it's the with the actual VIC chip, because actually, look, it shows it's got 64K. Oh, there's no free memory though. Okay, yeah, look at that. So it is working. Let's type a little program in here, and like we see that there's a syntax error there. Let's see here, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna typing blind here. Syntax error. All right, what did I do wrong? Print I, oh, okay, there we go. 20, print I, semicolon. Oh, it is getting worse. And I'm saying the computer is not even working now. Wah, wah, wah. Oh boy. That is pretty funny. Oh, it looks even worse now. It's very unhappy. Still working though. If I change the color to different color text. Yeah, look at that, it's sort of working. Okay, We got issues though, we got issues. I'm not gonna do any further testing. It would be easy, everything is in a socket, but let's skip that. And I'm gonna conclude that there are some weird RAM errors on this thing, which will warrant further investigation. One thing we know for sure is that the timing chip is working okay. I don't know, the VIC could be the culprit. PLA, of course, is always a suspect. CPU, I don't think is a problem. ROMs are probably totally fine, as are the CIAs. It's gotta be something going on here. It could be these MOS logic chips here. It could be the VIC as well, but PLA, yeah. Anyways, okay, so where's my notes? Let's write a note down. Say what I think here. So my conclusion for this is power's up to basic, but we have a corrupt screen. That's all I'm gonna really put there. So future diagnosis is gonna happen on this. Alrighty, well, next box here. This comes from, well, it says it comes from Ted in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but it says it comes from a UPS store. And UPS stores seem to have a bad habit of putting the name of the person who's actually the employee who's doing the shipping, not the actual person who sent it. So I'm not sure it's actually Ted. Something like a Apple, there's an Apple mouse here, one of these plasticky clear ones. We have, I don't know, let's just take everything out and see what we see. And we do have a note, excellent. Okay, and the note here actually is from Ted. It says, sorry, it's been a while since we texted. Sorry, it got put on the back burner. The floppies haven't been made since the 80s. Hope they work. All right, no explanation on what this other stuff is. So the floppies, we have an 8-inch, a box of 8-inch Dyson discs, and they are shrink wrap, but the shrink wrap is quite dirty. So let's open these up and see what we see. Okay, there's quite a bit of mildew and mold on the bottom of the box there. You see that? That doesn't bode well, unfortunately, for the discs, even though they were in this plastic. Plastic was not, it wasn't completely wrapped around the box. Box is crushed, either from something being on top of it or the plastic shrinking. There they are, 8-inch discs. Pack of labels as well. So let's see, these are one-sided, single density, soft sectored, unformatted. Well, that looks okay. Looks like definitely a bit of mildew on the sleeve there. But there it is. There's an 8-inch disc and it has the right protect notch. So basically, when this notch is actually cut into the sleeve like this, as you see it is, that means that this disc, if the drive supports it, is actually write protected. You have to tape over this to become write enabled. It's the opposite of 5¼ inch discs. These have a little ring around here, and I guess I just need to kind of spin these around. Well, this one looks okay. I don't see any evidence of mildew on that. This one looks okay as well. There are like little spots on there that are maybe mildew, but I have to say 8-inch discs are incredibly reliable. I guess 3740, I wonder, that must be their stock number or something like that. I don't have an 8-inch drive handy, so I can't test these out right now, but I'm definitely going to, I'm gonna hope that these do work, and what I'll do is occasionally I hook up an 8-inch drive to a PC for essentially archival purposes, to archive discs, and what I do is when I have extra discs, because people have sent stuff in the past, I go and I format them all using DOS. I format them as single-sided, double density, see if they all format cleanly. If they do, then we're good. And I will have to do that with these. I'll just have to put a note on there to remind me to do that. And look right here. These are the write protect tabs, well, the write enable tabs that I need to stick on these discs to make them writable. And then we do have a set of these extremely large labels that you stick on there for writing what's on the disc. Awesome. Let's see what else. Ted used this as packing materials, basically. It says Tech Tools on here. So what kind of a goodie's in here? Well, it's total mystery. Hey, there's an actual Tektronix battery-powered scope in here. Auto-ranging 100 megahertz scope DMM digital real-time 500 mega samples a second. So all those scope reviews that I do on the main channel, oh, the foam is very degraded inside here and it is getting all over me. Essentially all of those scopes that I've been reviewing lately, do I happen to have one handy? Ooh, I don't know, I guess I put it away. These are the precursors. This portable scope from Tech, which is really expensive, or would have been really, really expensive back in the day. I wonder what kind of batteries it is. Use Tektronix battery pack only. These things were so expensive, but so helpful for people who didn't want to lug around a heavy scope. Thing has like, it's a digital multimeter, so there's the multimeter inputs. We have a test point there for probe computation. There's an RS-232 jack. It looks like Ethernet, but it says RS-232, so that would be like a console cable. Dual channel input right there. It's pretty light. Of course, it's very well made. That foam stuff is everywhere. I just need a good cleaning. This is the tilting bail. Oh, there's foam debris everywhere. But then I guess I can prop that up like there. All sorts of buttons. This isn't sticky at all, even though it's probably made in the 90s. How freaking awesome. Let's keep cooking in the bag here. So this is the battery pack, which looks like maybe someone has tried to service this or not. What is this? Tektronix THS7 BAT, high capacity, 4.8 volts, 2.8 amp hour NiCad. Well, basically these are just like regular, look like C cells or something. There's 4 of them. So why couldn't you just use C cells in this thing? But that is certainly one of the negatives on a scope like this, is everything nowadays is lithium ion, so you have much smaller batteries, they last much longer. This thing's not going to be able to charge lithium ion, it's only going to be able to charge NiCad. But that's not to say that I couldn't try to maybe somehow add in a like 18650s in here and not charge them in this, but just power the scope from those, and it would probably work. Anyways, I doubt that this works anymore, and it's, no, it looks like it's, well, it's hard to tell if it's leaking or this is just the foam that was inside the bag. We also have a scope probe or 2. Oh, no, it's just 1, and then one that's just alligator clips. Very nice. Let's keep looking in here. We have a little tool for scope calibration. I don't know what that is, like a rubber cap for something. This too is some kind of a cap. Looks like originally it had 2 scope probes, and these are the clips you plug into the end of the probe there, so it becomes like a little clip instead of just a little point. I think that's it for what's in the bag here. This foam is completely, needs to be thrown away, so I'm going to take it out right now and put this in the trash. Looks like there's something inside here, manuals or something, so that, and what's this? Got some more clips. Tech Probe Master Lead Set, basic lead set. Okay, and that's it for what's in the bag. Let's just quickly look at the manuals. I'm assuming these are the user manuals for this device. And there it is, THS 710 and 720 Tech Scope user manual. This one is the, THS 720 standard, and there's the serial number. And look, Oklahoma State University, so this was owned by them at some point. Cool. What am I not seeing on here anywhere is power input. So there's no way to run this thing? How could that be? That doesn't make any sense. How do you even charge the battery? Oh wait, here we go. There it is right there. DC input, 12 volts, 1 amp max, and it's center positive. Okay, well that's kind of cool. So at least, wow, what a mess on the bench here. At least I can just try to power this thing up. I'm gonna have to take this outside later and blow out all the foam dust using the air compressor. Before I power this up, let's just look at what's in here. If this is anything related? I don't know what this is. This looks like a stereo to mono adapter. It has a little switch there, stereo and mono. I guess it just shorts the 2 things together. VJPS C069 is what's written on there. Okay. What's in here? Oh, what? Oh, there's a little TV in here. A little RCA LCD television. Cute. How do you get this out of here? This case is very, very tight fitting. RCA TFT LCD color television. Obviously, this is like analog tuning. Catalog number 16-3062, 6 volts, 550 milliamps, center positive, or 4 AA batteries. Manufactured in Malaysia for Radio Shack Corporation. So why isn't it branded Radio Shack? Why is it branded RCA? That's pretty interesting. Let's see if there's been any leakage in here. No, that looks really nice in there. Excellent. Okay, we'll give that a test in a second. Okay, I have the bench power supply set for 12 volts, center positive. Just double check it is center positive. Yes, it is. Plug this in. Okay, it's pulling 350 milliamps or so. It may not be happy to run without the battery installed. Ah, look, there it is. It's coming up. Hey, it's backlit. All right. Now, in typical backlit fashion of these old types of devices from the 90s, it's not very good quality screen. Yeah, it's readable, but it's not great. And I think, is this transreflective? I think it's a combo backlit and transreflective, so probably is still readable outside. So we have meter, we have scope buttons here. We changed it over to scope. There it is, running the oscilloscope. Okay, I just grabbed a random probe, not the one it came with, and I hooked it up to the probe compensation input. Interesting is these BNC jacks on the top here, they're plastic, at least the parts you can touch, so that when you're running this off battery, it is actually safe to test high voltage or things that aren't necessarily isolated with this scope. That's the whole point of battery powered scopes. When it's plugged into the power supply, I don't know if it's now safe to use in that way, probably not, but in battery mode it is. But because you don't want to be accidentally touching things that are high voltage, like the BNC jack here for the second channel, it is plastic. Neat design there. Anyways, there it is. It's showing the signal. It doesn't look super great. Is there an auto? There is an auto. Let's hit the auto. Let's see if that works. There it is. It worked. Now, it goes without saying that this old style screen here is really slow at updating. So it's pretty ghosty. I've seen definitely worse. I'm just looking at the menus here. I mean, this thing's just going to have all the usual stuff. It does have different kinds of slope, but still no fancy triggering, just up or down slope. This thing is going to have all the same similar capabilities to, you know, Tektronix scopes at the time that this thing came out, which I'm assuming is like, what, early 2000s or late 90s even. Different types of triggering. So it has pulse triggering. Ooh, okay, video triggering. So this can actually trigger on like broadcast scan rate, like you can pick lines and stuff, field 1, field 2. This is way more advanced in the triggering department than any of those cheap scopes that I've been looking at lately. This thing must have been worth thousands and thousands of dollars when it was new. It is 100 megahertz, as we said before, and I'm sure it's a true 100 megahertz. Probably not with this junky probe I have on here, but nonetheless, this thing is actually capable. The user interface, there's lots of buttons on here, so it's easy to, like, you know, go up and down on the time base, for instance. It's very obvious what buttons you would push to do that. Is this right here, for instance? And we can adjust the position of the vertical really easy. Whoa, it is insanely slow though. Like, I'm holding the button down, look at it go. It is very, very laggy. I mean, this is what you get. This thing is battery powered from, like, with old technology. And we can change the range, the voltage there. Waveform off, it has reference waveforms down here. We have math, channel 1 and 2, hold stop. So this is obviously a hold. I don't know, I never heard of a hold mode. I guess that's like the equivalent of stop. We have measurements here. Let's see what we got here. So all the usual measurements, period, frequency, etc., etc. Fall time, rise times, amplitude. I mean, this is going to be fully capable. It's just slow. It's just slow. We're looking at the cursors here, so all the usual cursor modes, different, I don't know if it has like an auto. I don't think it has auto cursors. That's something that comes later when you have a little bit more horsepower available to your CPU. Display contract, vector for the waveform display a T for the trigger point, so it does show a T right there. That's interesting that it's floating around there, but okay. It does support XY mode. That's going to be really slow. The graticule, you can change it to a grid, crosshairs only, just a frame. So that's kind of cool. Here's the version, THS 720, firmware version 1.03, and there it is, 1995. Think about it, 95, this thing came out. Oh, I can only imagine the price. If you were using one of these scopes back in 1995, definitely let me know how much you think this thing costs. I am sure this thing was thousands and thousands of dollars in 1995 dollars. And the fact is, we can buy pretty capable versions of this. I'm just gonna grab my most capable portable scope. There it is, the Handtech, what is this one called? I don't remember, 2C42. gonna be very similarly capable to this. It's not quite as functional, to be honest, so this actually is more capable. But this thing is so much faster, the screen update rate, all of that, not to mention, of course, it's lighter and smaller and color screen and really good contrast ratio. All the things that like modern time brings with it that we just didn't have back in the old days here with this. Let me just put this on the second channel. Let's just make sure that this actually works. All right, there it is, channel 2. Let's turn off channel 1. So we hit channel 1 and we hit waveform off. There we're on channel 2, and let's hit auto and see if it autos on the second channel. There it is. Okay, this thing is like fully functional. It's that old, and yet it's totally working great. I love it. It's using, by the way, about 520 milliamps right now at 12 volts. That's a lot of power. That is a lot. Compared to a full-size bench scope with like a CRT and stuff in it, or those really early LCD scopes that Tech was making, this thing is very cool and very capable, and it's really neat to have an actual Tech version of this. I am totally stoked by this. Thank you very much, Ted, for this. I mean, I know you just threw it in there, but I'm pretty ecstatic about this. I may need to do a repair video on a 64 using this. I don't know what these cost anymore, like how much it would cost to buy one of these. You know, obviously secondhand market, but definitely I could do a 64 repair with something like this. It's just the screen update rate. It's so slow. It looks like it's maybe updating 15 frames per second. Maybe in the manual here, it actually has some specs. Let's see if we can find those. It does say here that it can operate externally up to 15 volts. So that means that you can plug this into a car lighter, good for automotive use. It works from 10 to 15 volts. And if the voltage goes over 15 volts, it will disconnect the power input. And it does say all memory is retained indefinitely with the battery removed and without external power. So that's pretty cool. Pretty sure that my other scopes don't do that. Obviously writes the information into like a non-volatile RAM or whatever that's in here, probably like a flash memory. All right, there it is. There's the battery life. Approximately 2 hours of continual use with a full charge. And if you're operating the scope or not, and you have the battery inside and you're charging it, 20 hours to charge. You can charge it with a fast charger on an external battery charger there, 1.5 hours, but otherwise it takes 20 hours. I love it. That is awesome. It does say low battery first appears 10 minutes before the instrument powers off automatically. And screen resolution is 320 by 240 though. Pretty awesome. It is a temperature compensated contrast ratio on here. That means if you're operating this in like freezing temps, you're still going to be able to read the screen. That will just be really slow, but it will work. This is what I was talking about with the video triggering. So it supports triggering off PAL, NTSC, and CCAM, either of the fields for interlaced and any line on a non-interlaced screen. And it supports between 15 kilohertz and 65 kilohertz. So NTSC and PAL are 15.7. So you can basically trigger off any line. So it like decodes the video waveform and it can trigger off any line. You know, my Rigol scope is supposed to be able to do that, and I've never got that to work properly. It just doesn't seem to trigger properly, even though it has the settings for line numbers and whatever. So the difference between the 710 and the 720, this is the 720, is this one goes up to 500 megasamples a second, and it looks like the 710 only goes up to 250 megasamples a second. And the recording length, 2,500 samples for each channel. So I don't know how much that is in like size, but there you go. Of course, it has an 8-bit sample resolution, which is normal for like a scope of this time. And obviously like that Handtech scope I just showed is also 8-bit, so nothing's really changed there. Good for 100 megahertz on each channel or 90 megahertz above 35 degrees C. There it is on the first page of the specs, 25 waveform updates per second. Yeah, which is about all this LCD can do. So that's relatively slow, but that's totally fine if you're trying to troubleshoot like an old machine or whatever. It's okay. It's just not going to give you that like instant response that we're used to on modern stuff. But think about the fact that this thing is 27 years old and still working, and it's still usable. Like, this is not a useless piece of equipment. Yeah, it's not like it's cutting edge state of the art, but it's totally fine. It works fine. And you know what? Look at all the specs. There's tons of specs. This thing is very capable. It's really, really awesome. I absolutely love it. So how do we go to standby? We just push the power button there and it goes into standby. It's using 350 milliamps right now. I'm assuming it is trying to charge the battery, which isn't even installed. And yeah, I'm not gonna try the battery in here. I don't really trust these ancient NiCad cells, even though this thing doesn't look like it's leaking. Nope, not putting it in there. No how, no way. I could just try to find 4 cells and I mean tape them together. And the only thing they did here is there's a metal tab that goes on the top here and it goes down and it's this ring here. So obviously there's 2 contacts in here, one on the bottom and then one on this ring, and there's nothing on the top. It should be wrapped up in plastic. So it would be possible to like make a new pack, but you know, what's the point really? I don't know. You know what's funny about the fact that they put that contact down there and not on the top on this thing here? That means you just can't use normal batteries. If it just had the contact on the top, which believe me, it doesn't. I know it's metal, but it's held on by a little piece of rubber here, so there's no wire or anything. If it were, then you could just put C cells in here, or D, or whatever these are. Put Tektronix. They want you to buy their battery pack. That's just the way they work. Oh, how freaking hilarious. And there's even a thing, use only Tektronix battery pack. Do not do anything else, because you're bad if you do. You must pay us the money. You must pay us. Anyhow, okay, that is freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. Let's take a look at this little TV here. Let's just see if this thing can even power up. I don't have, there is a DC input jack there, which I don't have handy, so we're just gonna clip onto the battery terminals. Okay, we're not gonna clip onto the battery terminals because one of them is like way up inside the TV here. Incidentally, it does have audio video, so it has an audio input jack and an earphone and DC input, 6 volts. Okay, well let me just grab some batteries. All right, I went upstairs and I grabbed some Kirkland AA batteries. Yes, these are made by Duracell. I was very unhappy to find out. So they are just Duraleaks, not anything that's not gonna leak. I mean, I guess all batteries leak, especially if you watch Dave Jones' EEVBlog's recent video on the subject. He had a bunch that leak. I don't think any of his Duracells leaked. He's been doing some long-term testing. Okay, so it's off, on. All right, we see that line going across. That's it scanning for basically, it's like the channel selector line. It's looking for an actual channel and it will bounce back and forth. I wonder if this was made by Casio. I know it says RCA on it, but I don't believe it. This is very much a Casio thing. I've had Casio LCD TVs in the past, and they have that line that moved back and forth. And I mean, you can control the direction using the tuning buttons here. It's gonna search forever. There's a volume, which has no sound. There's a brightness knob, which doesn't seem to do anything because I think the brightness knob doesn't control the backlight. It controls like the contrast of the video image. And UHF and VHF. Because this is a TFT screen, it actually has somewhat okay viewing angle. It's not great compared to like what we have today, but at least it's something. What can I plug into this thing? I guess I'll grab a VCR and a cable and we'll plug into this thing. I'll use the video input jack. All right, I got the Panasonic VCR. I actually had made some tapes that I can play that aren't gonna have like copyright issues. I have this cable here that should hopefully activate the audio video. There we go. That little line has gone away, so I'm assuming that is now active. I don't know what's what on here, so we'll plug the cables in the back. Nope, that could be audio that I was trying to connect though. Let's try this again. Oh, maybe if the VCR were on, that might help. Oh, yes, it would. No, nothing on those. Let's try this one. See a picture, but it's all messed up. So this thing must use a weird, oh no, there we go. All right, let's see if I can get the camera positioned so you can see what I can see. Okay, the brightness is too high, I guess. There we go. Let's pop in a tape here. Should work. Play, it's not very sharp. There it is. Let's rewind this first. Alrighty, and I plugged in what I think is the audio. Maybe, if not, it's the other one. Let's see here. Oh, of course, there's nothing happening here. All right, here we go. I have it queued up, which I think means we should actually hear and see some stuff here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Adrian's Digital Basement. On today's video,
Super Mini Mail Call on the second channel. I'll put a link in the description to it if you haven't seen the video about this TV. One of the problems with this TV is, while it works fine, is it only has RF input. All right. Hence the two tuner knobs here. All right, turn the volume down. All right, so obviously it's working. You know, the thing is, I have to say, I'm pretty impressed. Actually, the picture quality is quite good. I mean, if you don't have really good eyes, you're not going to see that it is extremely low res. I'm sure this is like 320 by 240. Now, broadcast television in the US is not that sharp anyways, maybe horizontal resolution of maybe like 300 lines or whatever, and this is hooked up to VHS, so that's crap as well. And you're going to lose horizontal resolution, right? Because that's 480, you know, interlaced, and this thing's probably only 240. It might be even less. When I hit stop, the play or stop there, it's very, very pixelated. I'm not even sure that this is even 320 by 240, but you know, maybe. But as you can see right here, this thing is TFT, and that means it's pretty good. The viewing angles are great. It's bright. It looks nice. The color is really saturated. There's no color controls or anything like that. There's only this one knob here for brightness, and as I said, it just sort of goes between washed out and too dark. It's not changing the backlight, it's just changing the contrast. If I was a person who needed portable TV watching, I would have been very happy with this thing. I'm assuming this thing is from the later 90s though. It's gotta be, because the early LCDs on these little portable TVs were terrible. So washed out, so hard to see, very small. Just not good at all. I have a couple Casios around here. I think I've showed them on Super Mini Mail Call or Mail Call episodes before. This is the best little portable LCD TV I've ever seen. Now, would this be useful in a retro context? Probably not, unless all you're trying to do is test to see if your VCR is playing. But you can buy video display screens now so inexpensively from China, and they're thin and bigger than this and stuff like that, and probably don't use up nearly as much power as this thing. I doubt the 4 batteries are gonna last very long with this backlight, which is probably cold cathode. This thing was made before the days we had white LEDs, so it does not use an LED backlight. It's gonna be using something else that's like high voltage and will drain those batteries quite quickly, just like this thing. The backlight in there as well is not LCD, which is one of the reasons why the screen is just not that bright and it's not that easy to see. Does this little TV work though? Absolutely. It's a survivor. It freaking works. It looks good. And yeah, what can I say? I'm mighty impressed. By the time these better LCD portable TVs came out, I didn't really care about portable TVs anymore. I thought they were kind of pointless and useless. And this thing kind of falls into that category. And they were probably not too cheap either. All right, well, there we go with the stuff that Ted sent. So a bunch of 8-inch discs, which I'll be testing at some point in the future once I hook up an 8-inch disk drive. Hopefully those work. We have this little portable TV made by RCA, but actually for Radio Shack of all things. And then we have this really freaking awesome Tektronix scope here. Anyhow, I think that is gonna be it for this mail call episode. We're gonna have this 64 motherboard to repair in the future. Thank you very much to the person who gave that to me. And yes, this stuff is freaking awesome. Some really cool stuff. Some of the best packing material I've ever gotten, considering it was the disc that Ted sent me. Just awesome. All right, so if you like this video, thumbs up. If you didn't know what to do, all the YouTube stuff, thanks to my patrons. Their names are going up the side of the screen. And yeah, you know, all that usual subscribe, all that other stuff. And that's gonna be that. So stay healthy, stay safe. I will see you next time. Bye-bye. Ooh, look, static. Did you see that? Cool. Bye.